As we practice meditation more and more frequently, there is a faculty in us which is gradually being developed, and that is the consciousness of our higher mind. Not yet the buddhi or the spiritual consciousness, but just the higher mind. The higher mind, as many of you are aware, is impersonal. It looks at things without linking them to our likes and dislikes, to our personal preferences, to our fears. When you see something as, let's say, blue, then it is blue, period. It is neither liking blue or not liking blue. On the other hand, our personality, our lower mind, our emotions, and our physical sensations, they have preferences. I like this and I don't like that. I'm afraid of this and I'm not afraid of that. I like this person, I don't like this person. This is the nature of the personality. But the higher mind is different. It is able to see things objectively, see things more as they are. And this is the seed, the beginning of the development of what we call the inner will. We will see that there are two parts in us. The lower part, the personality, is a product of experiences, growing up process, conditionings, habits, and so on. And these habits and tendencies are automatic. We don't even think about it. We see something, we have a reaction to it. The higher mental, however, is different. When we see something, we just see it without any kind of personal reaction. And then we begin to see reality more and more accurately. Suppose you meet a person whom you had problems with yesterday or last year or when we are young. The moment you see him today, you immediately will have a reaction. You in fact may make a decision already that you don't like to talk to this person. Maybe he was a really difficult person to deal with 10 years ago. And now you meet him and you don't want to talk to him. This is the reaction of the personality with all its memories. However, the higher mental doesn't look at things this way. For all you know, this person is already a saint and no longer the difficult person that you knew 10 years ago. And hence, we are open to meeting this person again, understanding this person, and we can decide that we cannot work with him even up to now, or we can work with him. Either way, we are open. There is always or oftentimes a conflict between this inner will and the lower conditionings of our personality. And in our spiritual life, in our growth process, we are constantly engaged in this. And the stronger and clearer is our perception of the higher mind, the more effective is our inner will, the stronger it is, and the wiser is our decision-making abilities. Hence, the awakening and strengthening of this higher mental faculty, the abstract mind, the higher mind, is a very important part of our growth towards maturity. We are immature to the extent that we are carried away by our past conditionings. I may become habituated to like a certain kind of food that may not be healthy at all. And left to the personality, I will be continuing to take this food, drink this liquid, even though I know that it is something harmful to me. When, however, the higher mental becomes stronger, then it will now be capable of making a decision as to the direction of our life, of our behavior, of our personality. Growing towards maturity, the higher begins to dictate more and more what the lower should be. I like to eat this food. The higher will says, yes, my palate, my body likes to eat this food, but it is not something that in the long run is helpful to me in total as a whole human being. And so, even though my body may partly suffer for it, feel deprived, but the answer is still no, I will not. And then we are willing to go through the deprivation, the withdrawal, the feeling of discomfort. We are willing to go through that. When we go through such deprivation, after a few days, we will find that it doesn't bother us so much anymore. It may be a simple attachment to things like coffee, soft drinks, even tea, or other things. When the higher mind sees that it is something which is not very wholesome, very healthy, very helpful, or not moral, not ethical, then the higher will begins to assert itself in the way that we shape our destiny. If this higher mind is not developed, what happens is that the upbringing of the personality will determine our destiny. Our upbringing will be the one that will determine where we will go, what we will do. And this is not a very happy thing, because our upbringing is a result of many kinds of influences, sometimes beneficial, but oftentimes not very beneficial. Our values, our habits, our attitudes, these are molded at a time when we did not have the capacity yet to really screen the influences that come to our lives. But after a certain stage in our adulthood, we begin to find that there are certain things which are harmful to us and other things which are helpful. Then we make a decision that those which I consider harmful, I will no longer allow to become part of my daily habit. Then we begin to shape our destiny. This is part of our overall growth towards self-actualization, towards self-realization. Meditation helps develop this faculty, this higher capacity to see things more as they are, and more important, to assert itself over the personality, our lower nature, and we begin to change the trajectory of our destiny. So let me pause here now, and if you have comments, questions, we can open it to a discussion. You can type again your questions or comments on the chat box, or you can unmute your microphone and then share your thoughts or ask your questions. Trish is asking whether the conscience part of the higher mind is the conscience part of the higher mind and the higher self. Yes, but not wholly. There is within us something deeper, which is sometimes referred to as a moral sense. It is something which is not only part of our higher mind, but also of what we call the buddhi, that thing which is able to feel compassion towards other sentient beings. But even on the level of the higher mind, we begin to have this more clearly. In other words, We can see objectively that something is not fair, even if by acting on it, we will be depriving ourselves of some kind of benefit. Then, when the inner will or the higher will is strong, then the body and the action will follow. But when the higher will is not very developed, not practiced, not being aware, then the impulse of the lower personality will take over. A very good example is when we are afraid. We may see that something is not really dangerous. Like, for example, some people who have phobia of snake cannot go near a picture of a snake or even look at it. The mind knows that it is just a piece of paper, the picture, and yet the body is reacting as if there is real danger. So the body and the personality is evidently wrong. It is not realistic. And yet, when the phobia is very strong, then the person has almost no control. The whole body will freeze and it will just react automatically. Here, we need to work out both on the level of the development of the higher mind as well as of the lower. Perhaps in some future time, we can talk about how do we deal with things like extreme anger, phobia, resentment, hatred, and how do we let this become more neutralized such that the higher will become more assertive, more capable of being assertive. Because if a person who has a phobia suddenly becomes frozen, the whole body freezes, then the higher mind cannot do anything because the body is no longer functional. So when we have developed our higher mind, this faculty, which we oftentimes refer to as conscience, becomes stronger and stronger. It is something impersonal, and it's not about our likes and dislikes. There's a question now here about how do we forgive? Forgiveness, or the need to forgive, means that there is something that we feel in us which we still cannot let go of. It can be a pain. It can be a feeling of injustice, feeling unjustly treated, a resentment towards a person, or even to a group of people. Mentally, we can say, for example, as theosophists, that all human beings will one day become Mahatmas. In other words, we'll all become self-realized people. We will all go beyond our imperfections. So that's intellectually something easy to accept in our mind. And yet at this moment, we may find that we cannot look at a person whom we are angry with in that sense. It is because within our body, within our emotions, within our lower mind, there is this resentment which we still cannot let go of. We have to work on this. I'll just quickly share how this may be done, but maybe a more detailed explanation can be given at another time. If I am so angry with a person, I feel that this person has done a lot of injustice. Then, as I think of him or her, let me feel my body, my feelings, and see what I sense, what kind of discomfort I have. If there is, then I should work this out such that this energy that we call resentment will begin to flow and fade away and disappear until it becomes neutral. When we are able to do this, then the higher mind will take over and see this person not as an object of hatred, but as a person who is still going through his own difficulties. This person has done injustice to people, but it's not simply because this person is truly evil, but because of the nature of his upbringing and his experiences, he does things with self-interest in mind. And hence, we will be able to see this person more objectively. However, whenever inside of us there's still this resentment and anger, then it's very, very difficult to see that person objectively. And whenever we harbor resentment or hatred or deep-seated anger, we are producing a quality of energy within us that is actually harmful to us. Whenever we are hateful, there is poison within us. It affects not only our health, but also our nature, our own happiness and equanimity. And hence, it is best that we do not nurture this kind of a feeling, because the first person who is harmed is not the person whom we hate or we are angry with, but ourselves. There is a saying that a person who hates is somebody who drinks poison thinking that the other person will die. The first person who will die will be ourselves when we take this poison called hatred. The higher mind can handle injustices according to its wisest mode. In other words, Mr. A has done injustice to me, then what can I do in order to correct this injustice? Let me work on that without any kind of personal element. This is the reason why the Mahatmas of the Theosophical Society has mentioned that one of the prerequisites of becoming a Mahatma is that we must forego the desire for revenge, for being vindictive. We have to see people as work in process, as souls who come from very selfish, imperfect states to become more and more developed and purified. In the meantime, as they act with selfishness and even ill will, we act on it, deal with them out of duty and not out of resentment. There's a question here about the position regarding meditation, whether to just put our hands on the lap or the fingertips to be touching, and what's the purpose of the suggested position. You will normally notice that in some illustrations or photos of yogis who are sitting in the lotus position, they would put their fingers like this, or among some people, they would put their hands and put their thumbs to connect it. These practices are for the purpose of allowing the normal circulation of the chi energy in our body. In other words, there is chi circulating regularly throughout the body, and these are just modes of helping in the circulation. But take note that they are not essential in the practice of meditation. They are helpful in removing irregularity in the flow. And this is the reason why in the practice of meditation, breathing is very helpful. Before we do meditation, we may find that we are restless. And when you go into deep breathing, abdominal breathing, not fast, slow, but deep, you'll find that the body becomes more calm and relaxed. And that is really what is needed, a relaxed body. When the body is tense, it is difficult to meditate. In fact, when you are meditating and you find that the body, the emotions are tense, you can open your eyes and just work on your emotions first. And after you are calm, then go back to meditation. Sometimes, not only just this, not just this flow of energy, but other things. Sensations, which I discussed during last week in our session. When there are sensations, you distinguish between sensations due to the flow or interrupted flow or blocked flow of the energy, or whether they are pains. When they are simply sensations of the flow of energy, ignore them, they'll just fade away. When there are blockages like headache, then stop your meditation, deal with your headache until it fades away, and then you go back to meditation. Suppose you see visions. So this is another area. You see visions, things like objects in front of your mental eye. Take note that they may be interesting, but they are not relevant to the meditational practice, because the higher purpose of meditation is for us to go into a state of quiet, mental quiet, no words, no perception, no images, just a state of quiet. In yoga, it is called the cessation of the movements of that stuff called chitta, or mental stuff. When this ceases, we stop thinking, and that cessation is the object of meditation. And when this is attained, and if we are ready for the next higher stages in meditation, which will spontaneously happen. And this is the fuller awakening of what is called prajna, of the enlightened mind. There is a question about the subconscious mind. As they said, it has a tremendous power. Yes, the subconscious mind is really very powerful. In fact, a lot of the things that we do habitually every day comes from the subconscious mind. When we wake up and we go to the bathroom and brush our teeth or do something else, all these are automatic actions arising from our subconscious mind. When we drive a car, we can talk to people and attend to our conversation, and yet the body, the legs, the arms, the hands will still do what good driving will do. And hence, the subconscious mind begins to take over. If you're a pianist who's doing classical piano playing, you will notice that the body, the fingers, the hands have a memory of its own. You may have already memorized a whole piece, and then you don't think about it. Your hands and fingers will just play without thinking. But the moment you begin thinking about it, you find that you've forgotten what's next. So the subconscious mind is so powerful that it is in fact the foundation of the effectiveness of what is called hypnotism. Therefore, we must begin to take into consideration how to deal with these things embedded in us, in our subconscious. And when these are not helpful, we must allow them to be neutralized. There are some subconscious habits, attitudes, or reaction patterns that are helpful. For example, when you are driving, suddenly stepping on the brake because there's a red light or somebody crossing is an automatic, almost not conscious reaction. And this is something which is helpful. So leave it at that. But phobias and resentments are subconscious reactions which are not helpful. And these things we must allow to let go. Eventually, there should be less and less distinction between the conscious and subconscious. Whenever we do meditation, our awareness begins to expand wider, higher, and deeper. On the deeper level, we become more conscious about the subconscious elements in our mind. Things that we are afraid of, anxieties, resentments, issues, things that bother us, it begins to become part of our conscious mind. Until later, we'll find that there may be no essential difference anymore between the conscious and the subconscious, such that we are able to go deeper into our subconscious to be able to cleanse it up. There's a comment here that this meditation session helps foster the feeling of connectedness, the brotherhood and support of our TS works. Yes, maybe it is one of the good things of this lockdown, because we are forced to do lodge meetings and connection with each other online. Very good that we have this online capacity now. And for April, we will continue doing this for the rest of the Tuesdays. So we will have 4 sessions, including today. And after April, we will see what would be helpful and appropriate. We will be asking your suggestions, your comments about how we can proceed with this and be in touch with each other. There is a comment here by Renee. This lockdown is an opportunity for each one of us to meet the inner being. It may be the biggest opportunity of our lives. Yes, Renee, I agree, so long as we try to do it. I noticed that there are some people who spend a lot more time thinking about food. So to each his own, but among us, maybe it is really a good opportunity to first reflect and to do important things that we have been postponing. For example, for many busy people, we lack time, quality time with members of our family. Now, this is a golden opportunity to do so because nobody goes out, all stay in. So, what do we do together during lunch, dinner, and other times? Let us really share our enjoyment of each other's company. Are there things that you want to do? Maybe you'd like to write an article, prepare a lecture, write a book, or research on something. This would be a golden opportunity to do so. Then this connection with each other across thousands of miles and be in touch with each other, this is another wonderful opportunity. In the Philippines, we have begun to do regular lodge meetings through this Zoom app. We have done already 2 or 3 times. And in fact, this meditation session is an offshoot of the lodge meeting. And if it's something that is helpful, then even without lockdown or coronavirus, perhaps we can continue these types of connection. Renee says that with the virus, we can see all the interconnectedness of everything, including animals where all viruses start. We are one and there is no other. Yes, thank you, Renee. There are now more than 200 countries and territories around the world which have been affected by this virus, which started from just one place. And now we find that we are facing a common challenge, and we should do this together and help each other. And there's a comment here, the lockdown has united mankind in peculiar ways. It is the time to reflect and redefine the purpose of our existence. Thank you, Hamid. Now, just in case that some of you have suggestions regarding these sessions, feel free to email us to Charlie Romero, the one who sent out the notification to all of you, or to myself. But in the meantime, I would strongly suggest that you devote at least once a day of 20 minutes time to go into regular meditation. At the beginning, your body will complain and be restless and not want to do it because you are thinking of other things to do. But having the luxury of time during these days, it's all right to devote 20 minutes, even if assuming that you consider it a waste of time. But it will not be a waste because it will be a very vital, a crucial opportunity for us to be in touch with our outer and inner nature. I see that in many of those who have joined in, many people whom I know personally, some others I don't know, but welcome to all of you in participating in this meditation. Just take note, as I mentioned in our first session, that this meditation session is different from what we call a healing meditation. That has a different purpose. The purpose of this guided meditation is to help us get in touch with our inner nature, with our higher self. There is a question here. Even if we are only able to do the taming stage and unable to move on the second stage of meditation, can we still be in touch with a higher self? What we call the higher self starts from our higher mental. We all have the higher mental already active, except that it is oftentimes the case that we are not aware of how it functions. It gets mixed up with the lower, and hence it is not clear how to assert itself. In meditation, we develop a clear awareness of what the higher mental tells us, and this develops the higher will or the inner will. But we are already in touch with our higher self for our higher mental. Anytime that we do abstract thinking, philosophical thinking, then we are already using our higher mind, except that we are not yet fully aware of it. So go ahead and do so, continue the practice, because this expansion of consciousness is something which we will notice to overflow not only in the meditation practice, but also in your daily life. Thank you, and stay safe.